What's up? And give everybody a chance. I'm gonna wait here for a moment. Wait here for y'all. All right, good evening, everyone. So, today is going to be kind of sort of part two of a conversation. And you know what? I forgot something. When my husband comes in, I'm going to go get it for you. I hope everybody is doing okay today. Um, is it Saturday? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's tried to snow here with sleeting and all kind of stuff today. So, what we are going to do today, like I said, is kind of sort of part two of the conversation that we had. Specifically, we're going to talk about cancel culture, protesting, boycotting, um, or not. What are you all doing right now? And what do you all even understand is going on? At one point, we were protesting the NFL. We wasn't supposed to be watching it, but some people are watching it again. Where do you stand on that? Right now, we have future boycotts, or I think it's currently boycotts, boycotts, and protests happening due to several companies rolling back their DEI supports. And people don't seem to understand what really does that mean. Diverse, diversity, equity, and inclusion is not just simply affirmative action. Okay, it is having all types of representation. Women, the LGBTQIA plus community, people with disabilities, all types of things. And folks are just rolling back on it. It's not just people who are being hired and people who are on their boards, it's also the products. Are they going to sell the products? So on that, where do you stand? We may get to some comments that Candace Owens has made also throughout her history. In particular, I saw her on Nick Cannon sometime last month. I have a few notes. So that is what we are going to get into. I'm going to bring Ameer in, let him say hi while I go get something really, really fast. And we're gonna get into talking about Nelly and Snoop and all that, but I'm gonna let him in real quick.
Hey, what's going on? She got me carrying the show for a little while. Um, yeah, that was a good intro. It's a lot of good things to discuss. We would definitely like to know what you guys are thinking. What's your opinion on the matter? Um, there are no wrong opinions right now, right? Everyone's trying to sort through this, trying to figure this out, and this is not time to kind of be close-minded, but to really think about this from a more strategic down to an operational and tactical standpoint. Like we have to be moving at different levels, and not to confuse different levels. Someone be maybe moving at a strategic level, right? And we may be thinking from a tactical standpoint. And so to confuse the two is going to cause confusion. And so we really have to discern our way through this. She's back.
Oh, Gus says hello. What's up, Gus?
What's up, man?
So the small little thing that I forgot to go get the quote for the day. I hope today's the 15th. Today is the 15th, right? Okay. For February 15th, it actually fits pretty well. Is self love my liege? Liege? Liege.
Liege.
My liege, self love, my liege, is not so vile a sin as self neglecting. This is by William Shakespeare, Henry V. The fact that this is talking about self love and self neglect, I think that is pretty spot on for today. So, as I said, all right, so we just gonna jump right into it. So we kind of started last time where I mentioned how Snoop, like I be like sometimes on the fence with him because he's Snoop. But it started with the him calling Gail King out of her name, and then he started doing that apologizing. So from then, I was like, I'm not so sure about how I feel about Snoop. Then you were mentioning about people who are raised with the mindset of I got to get this money. Sometimes that's one of the things that we need to keep in mind. So it's not necessarily that they shift. What did you say? How you said it?
Yeah, I don't. It's not necessarily that they're shifting, right? That's been their disposition the entire time, right? They are coming from a place of, hey, I got to get this money, I got to get after it, and we're thinking they're coming from a more community based, community centric environment, and that's just not the case, and so they're going to make moves like this all the time because that's and I'm not going to say they because we all were exposed to that type of thinking, right? If you're going to be the best rapper, right, you can't be with everybody else. You got to be the king of the hill, so you got to start knocking people off, right? And so we come from a particular we, I'm saying collectively, not everyone is inside of that grouping, but a lot of us are exposed to that type of thinking. I got to get this money, and however I got to get this money, I got to get this money, and I'm gonna get it for me and mine. And so to think that Snoop should be something different from that when he is literally told you in his raps, right? That is how he behaves, and then we go, "Oh my God, I can't believe he actually did that." Um, yeah, it might be a little foolish on our part.
Yeah. So we talked about that, and then I am so just drawing a blank right now. But either way, I'm sure it'll come back to me. So we're gonna move on to Mr. Nelly. So my thing with Nelly is, as with others as well, is when they come on to these interviews and stuff, and they make it obvious that they don't read. They're not up on what's happening. So their comments and responses don't make much sense. For instance, when Nelly was saying, "Show me where Trump is a racist," bro, like don't for real, like you don't know that he's a racist. Like there's nothing that Nelly can say about that that says he's educated. Also, when we go back, I could be wrong, but I think Snoop had said something about voting and politics that shows that he wasn't really reading. Like for that one point in time when Diddy and them was doing the vote or die, and like he was like one of those people out there, but I swear, what didn't Snoop like recently say something against voting or something stupid about voting before he decided to perform for Trump?
I'm not sure. I don't be following.
Well, if somebody is watching and y'all know, because I swear he was one of the people. I swear he was one of them. Like we was all vote or die, vote or die. But because once it was Kamala Harris, that's when like everybody, all these people, all of us, okay, half. It appeared like half of the celebrities were then kind of going back because she put all these black men in jail. So we either vote or die, and make sure we do what we're supposed to do, or we not gonna vote for Kamala because she locked up all the black folks when they didn't read, they didn't know what all that meant. Okay, so I can't go on too much of a rant when I don't have my facts, but anybody is watching and y'all know. So back to Nelly. He was showing that he's not reading and he's not up on anything. So for me, I was disappointed because of that, but also being a Midwest girl. Like this my dude, like St. Louis, Austin, Illinois. If y'all don't know, they right across the bridge from each other. So all of y'all right here in the DMV, it's the same thing. Alexandria, DC. It's the same. It's the same. Whatever from whatever is the close name from Savannah is right there. It's the same place. So this dude like had my town still kind of. I'm not saying he was the hottest thing on the block, but I am saying I feel like he was still kind of keeping the Midwest, particularly that area, still in the conversation of hip hop because people are not. Kanye started going his way, and then you have R. Kelly, but people have their feelings, how they feel about R. Kelly. You got Twista, Bone Thugs and Harmony. Ain't nobody really talking about them no more. So, I mean, Nelly was it. That was the dude. So when he decided that he want to jump on this bandwagon with Trump, which I believe is only because he made that line with Trump, let me in now. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been a part of the conversation. So therefore, I was disappointed because you keeping me and my people in the hip hop conversation, whether he was whack or not. Just seeing him with the St. Louis on and all that kept us in the conversation. I'm stop there because I know there's more that can be said. That said, tons of people say they never watch the news or follow politics. Yeah, sure he was being honest, and it showed he was being honest. Someone show me where he's racist. He is racist. He has a history. So the dude who interviewed him, who brought up his past and his present. Oh well, I'm gonna let Amir go first before we jump further into the things that Nelly said. So
yeah, I would have been pretty disappointed too.
You can go first.
I would have been disappointed if I saw like Andre 3000 come out on the Trump campaign. I would have been, oh man, I would have been hurt. But yeah, we talked about it right earlier. You know me, right? I try to get as much information and intelligence off of a situation, right? And Donald Trump won, right? Can't dispute that. And a lot of people, when we're still in our emotions, right? Because he's doing a lot of things that's making people emotional. But there has to be a point where we kind of sit down and go, for real, why did he win, right? Mm-hmm. And part of the reason he won is that he spoke to certain people and they feel a certain way. And so the individuals he was able to connect to, you see a lot of individuals within the entertainment arena who sometimes feel like somebody is holding them back, feel like somebody is kind of oppressing them. They're making a lot of money. A significant portion of that money is, taken for taxes, right? So all of these things, right, that is applied to a lot of entertainers. Then you throw on top of that the cultural piece of the race and feeling kind of oppressed. That's a perfect storm, right? So what Nelly did was normal, right? From his vantage point. If you come from a small area, I talked about this, right? And you have a very, let me be nice, inner country interior of the country view, right? Like you said, he was putting on for his area, right?
Yeah.
But then when he becomes a global star, right? Black people all over the country, along with other people, but black people like, yo, they're throwing their weight behind it, right? Man, he might be dating Kelly Rowland, like all these things, right? Start to come in, right? He's a celebrity within the black community. We're looking at this. We're thinking because he's all of this, that he has this expansive view on things.
Right.
And I go, no, again, what did he say any mind-blowing stuff inside of his raps? Right? Like I would expect like Lupe Fiasco to have an expansive view on things. Because he's telling me he does it, he lives it, right? Nelly was sliding credit cards through, yeah, right.
Hey.
But hey, and guess what? Guess who else would have probably been there with him if he was available?
Uncle Luke.
Donald Trump would have been there. What are you talking about? He would have been there too.
True. Yeah.
And so we as regular people think we're closer to Nelly than we, because he's a black dude. In reality, he's closer to that, right? Because now, right, that's the life. That's some of the people that he spoke to. Like, yo, I kind of want that world back where you can go off and do that and be that person and go to stuff like that and don't have to worry about being judged. This is the guy, right? This is the content that he was making. And so then we go, oh my God, he went and hung out with President Trump and did his events. And I go, why are we steadily surprised by this? This is partly why people voted for him. He spoke to that world. So we shouldn't be, and I think because we see these artists and we fall in love because they are superheroes, right? Basketball players, artists, football players. These are the things that allow you to make it out of a lot of black communities, right? Mm-hmm. So these individuals are naturally going to become our gods, right? And so we're going to look at them in that light, but we never stop to go, man, he might be doing some problematic and some questionable things. And partly it's because some of us think the same way, right? As many of us want to be Nelly. Exactly. Let's see what Ja Rule thinks, right? I don't give about Ja Rule. I need some clarity right now. That is the truth. And so, right, because Ja Rule has never said he was that dude. And I'm not going to put it on him because he never said it. He never, but you take a Lupe Fiasco, right? He wants to be a more conscious rapper.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You take a Kendrick Lamar, that's the position he's stepping into.
Yeah.
There's nothing that Snoop has rapped when you went, man, that's mind blowing. It is not. And so I'm not putting them on that pedestal. One, because they didn't ask to be there. And two, I understand where they're coming from. Don't mean I agree with it, but I go, yeah, of course. Of course they're going to get the money. Look what Snoop was doing over the last 5 years, right? He was hanging out with Martha Stewart. He's doing talk shows. He's doing everything.
Yeah, he's doing money, a lot of things for money. Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, of course. And so if someone said, yo, you want to come and perform for $15 million, I don't know what the bag was. But if someone says that, yeah, you want to come out here and do 4 or 5 hours, come and perform for 15 million for that. There are a lot of people right now who say I wouldn't do it. If they sent that money to your account, you'd be like, I guess I'm gonna go out there and go do this. It's real. The question I have is afterwards, right? What would you do once you've secured that, right? Or is it a downstream that are you going to improve your community? right? Are you going to improve your situation, right? So you can get rid of the situation that created you in the first place, or are you just going to take your bag and go head out? Some people are going to go head out, and I understand that. And I don't have to really focus on that. I just got to go support the people who are going to turn around and improve their community.
Yeah. So we talked about a little bit. So Nelly's reasoning for performing for Trump also does not jive very well with me. So fellow fellow veterans, and even if you're still active duty, it doesn't jive for me because he says that he was equating it to the family members that he has had who have served in the military, which is not him. And so he said Trump is the president now. And just as military folks have to follow orders, he feels honored to do this performance. So because it's the president, this isn't the campaign, this is the president. So for me, if I'm looking at that, I did look at it. But for me, I'm like, okay, if you're gonna try to equate what military members have to do when we don't have a choice because of this person's position, he did not perform at the actual inauguration, the actual official event. He performed afterwards. This is a party to me. This is you now partying, you celebrating. This is not what military members would do. If a military member was told to go do a thing, you have to go perform. The best thing that I can equate it to is I can just equate it to like honor guard or something. We have to go do this funeral. It doesn't matter who that person is. We have to go to this funeral. We have to go give them their proper honors. Fold that flag, play taps, do the 21 gun salute, go to the family, give them the bullets, give them the salute, give them the whole speech. That is what we have to do. But if we go afterwards to the what you call repast, if we go to the repast and we go to all this other, no, that's not a part of your orders. No, you do not have to do that. That's not the official function that you have to do, or even somebody's promotion ceremony. That's what I had earlier in my head earlier. The actual promotion ceremony or retirement ceremony, whatever the case may be, that is official. There's a flag behind you. He putting your hand on the Bible or whatever the heck you're gonna do. You do your oath, all that, and then you dip. But once you stay after for the food and the drinks and the whatever else they do after, you are no longer in your official capacity. You're partying with this person. You're celebrating with this person. So for me, that's why else it didn't jive. And I know you can remember all of that, Amir. So, and then the second thing what we're going to talk about and tie it into is when Kaepernick did his protest, he actually spoke with a military member on how to best do what he wants to do without dishonoring the flag or making it look like he was dishonoring the flag. Okay, so go ahead, Amir.
We know where you stand on this. Yeah. So whenever someone says, I'm doing it for the troops, they probably not doing it for the troops. Everybody uses that line, right? He said he had military members, and this is what kind of factored into him making his decision. But I would, it's none of my business, right? But I want to be on the fly on the wall. Did he actually talk to people that's, these individuals that he's referencing, right? Because a lot of people speak on our behalf and say, hey, I'm doing it for the veterans. I'm doing it for the active duty, right? But they don't really come and talk to us, right? And see how we're feeling about the whole thing, right? They're talking to people that probably think the same way, look the same way, right? They're not getting a real understanding of it, right? No real. They may have been military members. I think they were military members at the event, right? But
Mm-hmm.
they didn't really do anything for military members, right? And it's like they improve the morale, right? There's cats that's deployed around the world or working ridiculous jobs, back here in the States preparing, defending the country, right? There are ways if he wanted to give back, right? He was like, hey, I'm thinking about this. There are ways to do that. He can get on that flight and fly overseas and do some performances over there.
Yeah.
He can go to a base and say, yo, I'm doing a veterans only, man. Fort Bragg, well, they'll have Nelly and hey, they'll host them, and he wanted to do a veterans only event and saying, yo, because I want to give back because other people in my family serve. Like, that's directly benefiting them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the definitely the separation between it is he's equating the duty of the military and why he was doing his duty. And I go, hey, we receive orders, but predicated on part of that order, right, to get you to do it is if we refuse, and you are allowed to refuse, right, there's a consequence. And they let you know what the consequences are, right? You want to do some jail time, you want to be removed for service, or you want to, demote it. Like a range of options that they got to ensure that you are complying with the orders that are passed to you. We would want you to be enthusiastic about whatever orders we give you. But if you're sad, that is not, or mad or not happy or don't agree, none of that is a showstopper. Like, hey, I know you that you don't like this, but guess what you're going to go do? And so to say that that's what kind of was in the spirit of him to do what he was doing is a little weird, because if someone told me I was getting, if you told me I'm going to get $1 million to go do this, that's not the same to say, hey, I'm going to go do this because I want to rep my country, my family, my community, right? Or I might go to jail. All of those things are different calculus than saying, hey, I'm receiving money to do this. And most of the military didn't really get to see the fruits of that ball, right? That's the part. Like, if you're going to do it for us, then do it for us. Don't say that you're doing it for this select group and no one really gets to see it. And so, yeah, that was I don't know. That's weird. What was the second part? The second part was
It's just the how we were going to have that lead into the fact that when Kaepernick
yeah,
protested, he actually got his advice from a veteran.
from a
and people seem
veteran.
to forget that.
Yeah, and because we live in a world, everything is right or wrong based on how we feel about it, not the necessary merits of the argument. Like, it may make you a little uncomfortable or mad, sad, or whatever that you are finding out this information. That what's the merit of the argument? Telling somebody, oh, you did it the wrong way. You wasn't standing. You was kneeling. All these things. Oh, you did it during the Super Bowl. Why can't you do it some other time? Right? It's or not during the Super Bowl, during a game. Right? It's always going to be something because someone doesn't agree fundamentally with you. And so they're going to find 100 ways to say you should not do it. And so we never really addressed the whole Kaepernick thing. It's like, hey, you might not have liked it or whatever, but what was the merit of his argument? And people just didn't want to see the merit of his argument because, again, they're all coming to, when you don't really have a strong connection with the group of people that I'm telling you are that roadblocks are being put in front of, you only get to see kind of like the elites or the tops or the most craziest of that group, right? So Kaepernick saying, hey, black people are being mistreated, right? First thing they're going to go is, let's find a way to make him not black. Well, you're not fully black, whatever that means, because half of your parentage is not black. So that that doesn't make any sense, right? That's part of blackness in America, right? Mixed race, right? Almost the entirety of us, right, have some kind of European ancestry somewhere on the line, right? So that's not it, because the rules that were put in place is, hey, the mother's child, even if the the male is white, the kid comes out. What is the kid classified? One, a Negro. Two, also enslaved. So, right, that was never parentage saying got nothing to do with how people were classified inside of this country, right? And so they attack his parentage first, right? And then they're gonna look at, well, why are you listening to a millionaire, right? You got all these, we come to the game watching a bunch of rich black folks play games. How are you guys oppressed, right? They just they're trying to find ways instead of stopping and going, he ain't talking, he's just using his platform. He's talking about all the unseen people that you don't necessarily have a connection to. Most white individuals in this country do not have a black friend,
or even just connection, period.
Yeah, there's a connection, period. And so, right, then it's because part of it is, right, we got all these real weird racial fallouts of how people live in this country. Most black people live inside of the major cities of the country, right? White people live everywhere across the whole country, right? So there's areas where there's a low black population. So there ain't gonna be you ain't gonna have no black friends, right? So everything you're gonna get is gonna be through TV or word of mouth, not actual real understanding. And if it's a low black population, you're not really seeing like the clustering of that group. And so, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. We live in and right. I'm not saying as white folks that are behaving this way. There's a lot of black folks that was the enemy of Kaepernick as well, and they wanted him to shut up because they're going to mess it up for them, right? And I say the same thing for MLK. People were not down with MLK, and everybody's like, yo, MLK. People that was like 30 years old was like, I marched for MLK. You're like, no, you didn't. You weren't even alive. Like, everybody wants to be cool with MLK and connect their beings with him, where in reality there was only a few people that was messing with MLK as it relates to like the black community. Not everybody was down. A lot of black churches said, no, he can't come here because he's only going to mess it up, and we don't want him to mess it up for us. Yeah. So Kaepernick just experienced, as any other black person who's going to come out and start talking out, speaking, is going to be on always an attempt to marginalize, and it works. It works almost every single time.
So I'm wondering, where do you stand on these current protests, boycott, and all of that? Let us know, leave a comment. And also, if you want to come on screen, I can send a link for you to come on screen. When did we stop protesting the NFL? That's my question. Also, because we supposed to not be watching the NFL, but people been watching it, and people been saying, I just want to watch the halftime show, or whatever the case may be. What's going on? If you're not watching it, you're not watching it. So is it just because Jay-Z decided to become a part of the board? Why are people watching the NFL again? So we can't even go all the way in when we're doing a thing, because even back then, people was like, I'm not gonna stop watching football.
Yeah. I don't think we ever stopped watching it, like as a group, right? Because again, it's one of our avenues of escape, right? yo, you can make it to the league,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so if Nolan Smith, right, he just a Savannah boy, they just won the Super Bowl. He plays for the Eagles, right? You think everybody that's connected to Nolan Smith was going to stop watching? No, they're going to see their boy make it, right? And so, right, the city wants to see their boy make it, and and that story is all over, right? This is our guy; he might make it, right? It's like asking back like people to stop watching the NBA. You get
Mm-hmm.
a few people, but you're not going to get a massive amount, especially when your person might be in the game, right? You know, it'll be hard someone to say, Tawana, we boycotting the NBA, and you know, one of our sons is about to make his debut, right? You might sneak off into the room and like, I'm going to watch my boy do his thing. And so we never stop collectively. A few of us,
Mm-hmm.
you know, say, you know what, this is ridiculous. But people forget the whole reason why we were boycotted in the first place. It was before that, right? It was the CTE. It's like, yo, these football players are getting traumatic brain injuries. That is a thing. They keep finding it, right? The NFL did make improvements, but it made them quietly and subtly, right? Because they didn't necessarily want to acknowledge the issue, right? So you can look in the helmet. The helmet design has changed
Mm-hmm.
to accommodate that issue, right? But there'll still be another 10, 15 years to really understand because this new helmet, players have to retire from that era, and then their brain's going to have to be studied, right? So yeah, we could be 10, 15, 20, 25 years away from actually understanding is the CTE, was it, were we able to mitigate it with this technological change in the helmet? But then at the same time, part of it is black NFL player was like, we got to play because people are dependent upon this money, right? Again,
Oh.
it's going back to, it's connected back to communities, right? And if I made it out, like Shannon
Mm-hmm.
Sharp is going to catch those passes because his story is an emotional story, and the reason he plays for his granddad and grandma and brother, right? So when
Mm-hmm.
you're asking him to not do it, you're asking him to overcome an emotional attachment to something that he loves. To some people, I'm not in the NFL, so I can just go, all right, whatever. I can walk away. But asking those players to stop doing what they're doing, if you can't get them to boycott, it's hard to generate anything when the people, the actual employees of the organization, is saying, no, no, this is cool. I'll risk it. It's okay if my brain might be busted if I can get some couple generations out of poverty.
Yeah. You just made me remember. Well, first of all, I wanted to remind people that er, two things are at play, right? Because you already said like football, football and rapping, or just sports and rapping are two of the ways that most of our community thinks is how they can get out. So there's that. But with football, there is now two things at once happening because there's a third way that people try to make it out, right? And that is to go into the military. And what happened? Why? How was this whole Kaepernick thing even an issue? Is because they now bring the flag onto the field, which I believe, okay, I talked about this a long time ago. That started in like the late 80s or early 90s. When did that start?
It's whatever Budweiser's up being a bunch of
Yeah.
money.
So this was all just a campaign ploy to help with recruitment to the military. So that was one thing that I remember. That I remember, like, first of all, there's that. So with Nelly, also with his whole thing with the military and honoring and all this here, this stuff wasn't even, that's not even a part of football. in the beginning. Second thing, you said if the football players aren't protesting, made me think about the football player that he went viral because he pushed through the crowd to shake Trump's hand. All that again, that's extra. That's unnecessary. What did you do that for? And when I asked you, you said he's not the quarterback. So is not well, yeah. I didn't have to ask you that. I knew that. I just didn't have my thinking brain on. But he wasn't the quarterback. So why are you doing extra?
Yeah, I mean, a power make people do weird things. Um, right, and look, he Trump might be his hero, and I told you right what Trump was kind of has been guaranteeing or saying that he speaks for, that speaks for individual, right? These are all these NFL players are individuals, right? And they got their ideas and thoughts about things. Some NFL players are extremely religious, right? And so they may see the decline of the United States in their eyes is tied to the decline of Christianity. And you got somebody saying, I'm going to be a Christian warrior, right? At least that's the statement around them. And so now you see this guy. That guy means a lot because he's about to try to bring it back from the thing again, emotion,
Mm-hmm.
the thing that you love. And so I don't know what propelled him to kind of bust through and shake the president's hand. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is definitely an American experience. You go to other countries, when they're playing their sporting things, it's just not like this. And maybe the closer we can get to that is maybe the World Cup and some of the presidents or whatever. Prime ministers of those countries may sit up in the box or whatever, or they may pass out the medal if they're in the host country, and right at the end, the president may be the one to actually pass the medals out. Um, but yeah, I know this looks kind of weird that we argue about it because you don't really see flags
Mm-hmm.
um, um, in a national game. International games, they may have the flags of both countries up, right? But for a national game, um, because again, it's shown around the world, you may not see the flag. But that yeah, that's definitely an American thing. But yeah, like you said, people don't have their thinking brains on. People get wrapped up into it, right? And if you're not saying, if you're going, hey, I don't really care if they show the flag or not, right? They go, oh, you're clearly not an American, right? You're anti-American because you don't, because the flag's not being shown during the sporting game, and you go, man, our level of what an American is at times this feels a little shallow. Just like, right, we know why the flag was there, right? It was definitely a recruiting effort, and then Budweiser gets behind it, throws their energy behind it, and it becomes this very American thing. When in reality, it's truly not. That's not the definition of being any citizen
Yeah.
around the world. And you can see the same thing. If I go, I don't want to see a white dude, a chubby white dude with a beard during Christmas time because that dude doesn't represent Christmas, right? People want to punch you in the face. Like, people go to war. We get our house shot up. Like, he's trying to kill Christmas. Coca-Cola laughs all the time because it's like, we made that, right?
Yeah.
We did that. It was such great marketing that it has found a way to remove the actual thing that the holiday is supposed to be focused on, and we removed it and put our dude there. Like,
Yes. When it
that's
was a polar bear at
with
first.
polar bears and stuff. You're like, oh man, Santa Claus lives in the North Pole, and you're like, oh man, that he's a combination of someone from Turkey and someone from Germany. Like, Germany is not even close to the North Pole. Like, it is. It was like, how do we get polar bears sliding down white, red and white snow, like that idea, like all of that is such marketing. And but if you don't do it right, people feel they didn't have a good Christ mass.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I had a bad Christ mass because I didn't get to do this commercialized thing. And I'm like, we get wrapped up on it. Like, I'm not gonna knock you if you want to do that, but I don't understand like knocking somebody who doesn't want. But that same person pays their taxes, right? Goes out and vote. Like, these are the things that you want from a citizen, right? That's the thing that makes America great. That's right. You got to pay your taxes, right? You got to go do those things. Go participate in your civic duty, right? But no one puts money behind that. That's what we should be putting our money behind. That's what a great American is someone who does their civic duty, right? And pays their fair share. But no, we get locked into these weird things.
You're giving me so many things that I could go shoot off of. Hey, Davida. And there I put the link. I put the link here. So if anybody wants to come and join, because you're tired of typing, you want to come and join us, you can come and join us.
Come on.
Man, so many ways I could go off what you said. Making an American civic duty. I'm just gonna try to get move us on a little bit to DEI, because you're talking about just being a human, like just being a human. If people are not understanding DEI rollback, what that means and how it affects us all, that is also why we cannot have a successful protest, boycott. The nuances. We were supposed to talk about that the HBCU college too. The nuances of that. Yeah. So today when we were talking to our son, and then he was telling me all the other products that are tied to Google, reminding me rather of all the things that's tied to Google. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. And then our oldest son was like, if you going in, you got to go all the way in. You can't be half stepping. All right. So to that, I say that is a true statement. But nuances is, like, we are a part of parenting groups and all these other things, and there's older people who can't do a thing, so like it can't really leave WhatsApp. Like, gotta stay there. Facebook Messenger, like the people who don't have my phone number yet, but hey, I can let it go because it's a part of Facebook. But WhatsApp, and what was all the other stuff Alex was talking about? But like all these Google products, Google Docs, and all that other stuff, I don't have Microsoft. And then the other nuance is we were talking about like stocks. Two of those companies, our kids have stocks in. Now, that does not necessarily mean that we have to patronize those places, like you were saying about NBA making a debut. We don't have to patronize those places, but if they go out of business, that's money our kids losing out on. I'm gonna pause, and I'm gonna let Gus in and see what Gus want to talk about. But everybody remember that. Remember that was what I said. The last thing that I said is it's the nuances of these protests and boycotts and stuff. And can you really dip your toe in, or do you have to go all the way in? Does that mean you not supporting? What does that mean? Where do you stand? What's up, Gus?
Hey, what's going on? Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, he being a daddy right now. Somebody. Yeah,
No, no, I saw your pop up on my phone. I was just getting in from picking up some groceries, so I figured, man, this is going to be an interesting topic. So I tried to get in and just listen, and then I saw the link just now. I was like, okay, maybe I can just go in and we can talk too. So I ain't got to type all that stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. So how you guys doing?
I'm all
Doing
right.
good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. You know, just started a new gig in the midst of all this chaos. Back in the government again after I left the army. You know, it's crazy. And you know, yeah, I don't know if you guys know. A couple years ago, I was on a DEI diversity, equity, inclusion panel in St. Louis, and you know, I support it obviously because I feel like people like me, Amir, and yourself, we're the exception, not the rule. You know, we can overcome, we can pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. But just like Dr. MLK says, you know, how can you ask that of a man who doesn't even have boots, especially people who have a completely different history than any other American, which is the black people who were brought here and enslaved and then had to endure Jim Crow. And you know that timeline, we've talked about that before, post about it before, but it's basic cause and effect. You know, so I really do think that they need those protections and regulations are something that's extremely important to everything we do in this country and even in the services. I was in a conversation with one gentleman about a week or so ago. You know, he's a avid Trump supporter, which I ain't got nothing against Trump. You know, I got nothing against him. The people made their choice, and you know, I'm gonna do my job. But at the end of the day, I ain't vote for him, never. But I will say this: regulations are important because historically people do not do the right thing without them, right? And if they weren't important, why don't we just get rid of all of them in the military and see how many people will remain within the weight standards, won't cut their hair, you know? So we need DEI to keep people in line because people will not do the right thing. If they would, then you know, there would have never been a thing called slavery. And, you know, there would have never been Jim Crow and white only this, white only that. You know, if people was going to do the right thing, so we have to have handrails in place to keep people in line. And I get Trump's premise. Okay, we've done it long enough. We don't need the training wheels anymore. But let's see what happens. You know, and personally, I don't think that people are going to do the right thing, and I think we need to regulate people. And I do not think that people like yourselves and me are in place because of someone lowering a standard for us. You know, and I don't think that at all. I think we're fully qualified to be everywhere that we are. But those systems that were put in place over the years forced them to have to look. And then when they look, they realize that, oh man, if I take this person, then we can win. You know, we're going to be more efficient. We're going to be stronger. So, you know, I'll stop right there because I know I can go on and on and on about this topic. But, you know, we're living in crazy times and we got to have each other's backs. And one thing for sure, you know, he ain't got but 4 years, man. He's a lame duck. And I think we're going to be all right.
I don't know if we're gonna have the whole four. I saw you writing, Amir, so I'm gonna say something. Gus, it's been a minute since you were on here. So if you could introduce yourself, however you decide to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Gus Wright. I've been around the block a few times when it comes to the military. I did 25 years in the Army, and right now I'm still working with the Army as a data scientist. And you know, before that, you know, I grew up with Amir in Savannah. You know, we played high school basketball together and have remained friends ever since. You know, he's like one of my A1 dudes that I know I can bounce ideas off of, and he's going to always challenge me to think as well. And as for me, I will call myself a functional academic. I like studying stuff,
Ooh,
and I also like to actually do things. So I don't read just to read. I read to make sure I can do something.
nice. Go ahead, Amir.
Hey, can I pump Gus's book?
Go ahead.
Can I do that?
Oh, I
Can I
didn't even know you got one.
can I my man down here, right here,
Yes,
this right
sir.
here, 10 guys. Get
Yes,
your
sir. You know, Amir, I only had a chapter, so I only wrote your name like once or twice in there. But you know how it goes. It's got to be sequels. So when I do my whole book, I got some stories.
Yes. And congratulations again.
Yeah, man. Congrats.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, to the whole team, man.
Yep.
Awesome, awesome. No, so what I was when I wrote down right, um, what you said earlier, you said the kids have stock, right? And every few months we get some kind of communique from that company, right? Say, do you want to vote on this, vote on that? So all these companies that are DEI, right? Well, I read them. You know the read them. So all these companies said that say, hey, we're not going to deal with DEI, right? Part of that is participating, getting on these, owning some share of the company, so you can exert your will. We're not there in all of these companies, right? They wouldn't if they would do it to consumers, but they are leery to do it to shareholders because shareholders can mess up the game for them. And so that's a difference. You're a consumer. Become part of it so you will have a voice, right? Not saying the voice is always going to be heard, but just being a consumer when we say, hey, I want to boycott. Okay, that's a strategy. That's a piece of the strategy. The other piece of the strategy is having people on the other side of the fence exerting pressure as well. So if they can just close the window and say, I'm just not going to listen to these people yelling outside my window, and go whatever. But if you have people from the other side who's exerting pressure, saying, hey, we're not going to vote you in, or we're not going to agree to this buyout, or whatever thing that you're doing, that will force companies to kind of behave a little bit different. But then I wrote when Gus was like, having standards, I go, it wouldn't be a 10 commandments, right? If people will behave, right? Like you got a whole book about people not behaving, right? And so humans have a capacity for greatness, but also a capacity to misbehave, and having something there to kind of say, time out. No, we're not. You're going too far. Is a good thing.
Hey, Amir, I was talking to my wife the other night because she feels strongly about all this too. Like, if you're gonna get rid of DEI, because under the premise that we don't need it anymore, Americans are all Americans, everybody's gonna do right. Let's get rid of the red lights and the green lights too.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just get rid of everything.
Yeah, we should be good, right? We should have figured it out. Right?
Let's see who's gonna stop and let the other guys go.
And so you look at like other industries, right? The NBA is DEI, right? NFL, college football is DEI. All of those organizations that had to be forced into accepting different groups of people, and they have made a ton of money off of it.
Absolutely. It dates back to the Civil War, man,
Yeah.
in the 54th. Go and
Yep.
watch the movie Glory.
Yep.
It became apparent that the Civil War would not have gone in the direction that it went if the slaves were not allowed the opportunity to fight.
Yeah.
With the South. I'm sorry, with the North. So I mean, it's just one of those things where you're stronger when you diversify yourselves. You expand your talent pool in that regard. So at the end of the day, you know, I really do have faith that we're going to prevail and everybody's going to be okay. Um, and I really do think that hatred is not going to win because it boils down to that in my mind. A lot of people are angry, hatred, and have a lot of vengeance in their hearts. About the way things went in the past, and they just feel like they can just unravel all of the progress that's been made over the years. But I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't, because we're not our ancestors. And when you take away protections that are put in place for us, unfortunately, you put us in a position where we have to think about protecting ourselves, and that's not a good place to be.
Yeah. Yeah. This is going to be interesting to watch Yeah, that was such a rookie move. And that's how you know they don't have a plan. What Mimi just said, they don't have a plan right there. And I am not. I like to be responsible with our resources. So I'm not saying that everything that our government participates in uh, is always a good thing. But if you're going to get rid of something, and I'm not saying that that's not a noble endeavor, but you should understand what it is that you're getting rid of. And so when you go, hey, these workers, what do they really do? I don't care if it's a person who just turns the switch on and off at every hour, right? You're like, that's menial. Well, what does that switch go to? If it keeps the nuclear plant from melting down, then that becomes an essential task. And if you're going to get rid of it, you better have something in place to mitigate that issue, right? That's important. But they go, he's just doing this, or I mean, there's a lot of safeguards that we have in a lot of part of our government that's there for a reason. And to go after that, it's just showing that people who voted for them did not also understand the apparatus of the United States government.
Yeah, oh, definitely not, man. And then looking at some of the decision making, to me it screams a lack of critical thinking, education, and training. Training also takes practice. I think it's a quote by Martin Luther King that says, "Nothing pains some people more than having to think." There's a universal quest for easy answers and half-baked solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, when Dr. King used the word pain, and it signifies the fact that thinking can also be painful if you're not trained to do so, right? And you look at some of the thought processes that are being carried out, that there's a total lack of critical thinking. What people don't understand, that things were put in place for a reason, and that continuity is something to think about as well. Why was those decisions made? you know and should you unravel everything, go into detail. I was talking to one gentleman a day or two ago, and he was going on, as a white guy, he was going on and on and on about why he's so happy about this administration, and the fact that when he was a teenager back in the 1960s, jobs like Burger King and McDonald's were something that white kids could go and do, and earn a living while they were in high school. But now those jobs are being taken by people as full-time jobs with families, and they want $15 an hour and so on. And I agree with that to an extent, but I don't think that white Americans are losing jobs because of immigration and diversity, equity, and inclusion, and those types of things. I think it's because over the years they were given opportunities that we had to be 10 times better to even be considered for. And I can remember my mom telling me growing up that she didn't get a chance to finish high school, so I should finish and I should go to college. And now I've done those things, and now I get opportunities. But those guys from her era in the 50s and 60s, her contemporary white folks were just given those opportunities just because, right? And now we're in a situation where, as the advice of our parents have propelled us to be able to take advantage of those 70, 80,000 data science jobs that are out there, rather than fighting for the job at McDonald's or someplace else that are being consumed by immigrants. We've been positioned to be able to make a higher living and to do better in life. And folks feel like we are encroaching on something that's only in place for them. No, it's a matter of qualifications, and when we think diverse, equitable, and inclusiveness, you have to also think about our qualifications, right? That's the thing too. And the world is changing, and if we don't educate ourselves and our kids to look at the trajectory at which the world and technology is going, they'll be in a bad situation. Also, I would personally think a kid will be a fool nowadays not to be pursuing STEM and science as an education or trade, something that they can use in the future, because automation is here. Those things are not going away, and how many people you think are going to really be able to flip burgers with robotics coming into play, when we get into the future. And we're fighting each other, feeling like, it's our ethnicity that's putting us at a disadvantage, but it's our level of education and training, in my opinion, that's put certain people at a disadvantage. And one last point I'll bring up, so many people look at things through a soda straw. They want to say, okay, it was the last administration that did something. They usually don't look too back, right? There have been, I don't even know the number, I forget, because I don't keep up with those numbers, but there have been 56, 55 presidents, something like that, in the past, somewhere around that number, but you can do a Google search and see all of them. I would challenge most people to think about the problems that they think they're experiencing in their lives, and then look at that timeline, looking at every president and when they were elected, how many years they served, when did that problem start? And please don't blame it on the one black dude that's on that picture. That's the one thing that I would challenge people to do.
Yeah, yeah. And this is 56 because he's doing 57 right now. Add to your notes, Amir, what you had said earlier about Kamau wanting whatever. His ambitions and things about the planes and stuff. That was in response to Gus saying pursue STEM. I want to read Mimi's stuff. Why not just fire the people who are stealing taxpayers' money? Once you let someone go, you have to have someone better to replace them. And it isn't saving us no money by firing all these government employees. Let some of these officials go and stop sending unnecessary money overseas. I know y'all both probably want to talk about the unnecessary money overseas comment. And Mimi, I did put the link in here, so you don't have to type so much. You can come in and join us. Okay, you can go get to your notes and let us know, what is this unnecessary money overseas?
I'll work my way down my notes. So when Gus was talking about the fella about they're taking the jobs, right? Again, he's absolutely right. There are those particular jobs that he's referring to, the Burger Kings, the McDonald's, in the 70s and 80s or whatever, 60s. Those jobs were almost exclusively for white folks work those jobs, right? And I can understand, like, if you're coming from those eras, right, you're going to work your way through and go, oh boy, this McDonald's has changed a little bit. But you got to ask the question, right? There were no McDonald's or Burger Kings inside of black neighborhoods, right? So that's one, why you only saw white people at these locations. So, and then when they did start opening up and hiring, they're putting McDonald's in urban areas. Why? It's in your neighborhood. And so it was still segregated. If you went to the McDonald's on the south side when we were young, those McDonald's had white people there. You went to McDonald's on MLK right there by Shabazz, it was black folks in there, right? It was based on where you lived. And so I don't know why people would get caught up on that. And just like Gus said, why are we competing for those jobs? Those jobs will go away because they're going to automate. They're going to try to keep a couple of humans around to keep an eye on the robots to make sure the robots are doing what they're supposed to. Well, but that McDonald's worker is going to be a far more technical individual than the McDonald's worker of 25 years ago. And so if you don't know a little bit of coding, somehow something to understand the UI, right? That's the problem right now. You go to McDonald's and the machines are down. A lot of those kiosks, because they ain't got nobody to work it. Because it's like a team that services a whole region. And if they can't get to that McDonald's, that kiosk is going to stay down. That's a gap in skills. They don't have enough of this. So it's telling you McDonald's is not necessarily taking their kiosks out, right? They're going to only increase it, and it's going to keep creeping back. It starts at the front line of those individuals, then it makes its way to the cooks, and then from the cooks, it's going to make its way to the supply line, right? To automated delivery of goods to that McDonald's, to where that place is only going to have a few humans interacting with individuals. And so if we can't understand that trend, right? What that guy is saying, he is right. What he is not saying is that he understands why he is right. Like, it is happening. That's supposed to happen, right? It, guess what? The cotton gin was a perfect example of that, right? It started out with manual labor of doing that particular thing. Then they got something to replace that. Now they shuffled those enslaved Africans to other areas, but no one was picking the seeds out anymore, right? That it was a technological improvement that it's going to happen in the worst of the industries. It's going to happen. So you know that it's going to happen in different other servicing sectors. So if we're not ready, I don't know. I do understand when people say money sent overseas, right? I get that, right? Because we make the connection that money should be sent home, right? I agree. That money should be spent within the community. So how do we get that to happen? Yeah, vote. Those representatives, right, that are in Congress, right, in the Senate, they're making these decisions. That's part of it. That's for those federal, the big elections. Then what is your city doing? What is your state doing? Georgia has been getting billions in dollars from the lottery. Streets in Savannah still the same. Schools in Savannah still the same. We look at the federal government, I go, no, they do a poor people's tax by taking your money for all this gambling that you're doing, trying to win the lottery, and you get nothing in return on that except a small chance to win a lot of money. You're getting zero return on giving. Sometimes people spend $50 to $100 on scratch offs and tickets, and they get no return. And they've been doing it for the last 20 years.
Big time. Yep.
And I go, that's your money. And I was talking to Tawana earlier, right? I was listening to one of the guys on radio, and he's like an investor, a financial planner. If African Americans were a country, we would have the 11th largest buying power in the world. African American buying power is $1.6 trillion with the T. 3% of that comes back to the African American community. So when someone says we send money overseas, right? It's not just the federal government that does it. We are doing it to ourselves.
Absolutely.
We send our money away. And I go, be critical on the government. I'm never saying don't do that. You absolutely should hold those jokers accountable. But we are sending away somewhere to the tune of like $1.4 trillion away from our community.
Yeah, and the funny part about that is not to mention that buying power, but also the individualism. You know, we accomplished that level of spending by spending as individuals. And even on this call right here, Tawana, Amir, me, and my wife, we've never purchased something together. We've never said,
That's
"Hey,
true.
let's go
That's
get us
true.
an Airbnb.
That's
You
true.
pay half, and we'll pay half, and
That's
then
true.
we're gonna rent this thing out." You know, we do it as individuals, and I really do think that you know, we lack leadership. That's always been a big problem. because most of us are type A, if not a type B personality, and nobody wants to follow anybody, especially one of our own, right?
Mhm.
And we definitely do not pool resources,
Yeah.
and it's a crying shame. And while you throwing numbers out, I was doing some number crunching myself because I like to talk to my kids that coach basketball on the weekends. I don't like clipping kids' wings, but I like to be realistic with them. We're talking about jobs because most people are, concerned with the economy right now and unemployment. It's 540 seats in the NBA, and they don't fill every seat every year. Only a few of those get drafted, right? 540, not 5,040, 540 seats. So that's like hitting the lottery. You're talking about the lottery. If you end up going pro within the pool of talent concerning America and also European players who tend to take up a lot of seats as well. And right now, just doing a quick search, that's 540,000 open STEM jobs, 540,000 openings that if you got the right skills, the right certifications, you can make NBA money. So how are we focused on our kids? What can we do for ourselves? How much are we asking of the government? And then how much are we asking of ourselves?
Yeah. 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 Spot on, Gus. I always talked about that. Like it's only to compete for those NBA spots. It's not realistic, right? So most of us come out already decline with the the NBA. We're not making it. And I tell people, I remember I got into the one game. Who was we playing? I can't remember who we were playing. But I got my shot blocked in the game, like monster block, right? And at that moment, bro, as that ball came off that backboard, this might not be it right here, bro. Because this is not even this is not even the apex predator right here,
For
right?
real?
This is just a local. This is a local joint, right? I got to deal with something worse than this.
Hey, I was sick in the 12th grade, 5 games in, when I realized Coach Whittemore ain't gonna give me no playing time.
No playing time, bro. We
Like,
ain't making it.
how can I show the scouts I want to go to the NBA if I can't get off the bench?
You get off the bench, bro. But what helped, right? Right. Both of us had something working in our favor. We had STEM. Right. We didn't call it STEM back then, right? But we had programs that introduced us to tech. I mean, I was in CAD, so learning how to do CAD stuff, right? For design. Gus let me cheat off of all of his design stuff over there.
No,
Yeah,
not
slide
all.
me. It would hook me up, man. That's like, yo, man, it was a blessing. And then like the after school programs, like in the summer, I would do those programs, and they were tremendous, right? And then one day I realized, and I would tell you this, my son, my middle son, was a heck of a lot smarter than me. He was like, I want to go to the STEM field. I don't want to play soccer. And I was like, what, man? You are a phenom. Like, what are you talking about, man? You don't want to play, right? I was just blown away. And he had already did the numbers. He was like, I can come into STEM, have some certifications, and I will make more than a WNBA player.
Yeah, it's logic.
Right. And I was like, huh. And I will make more than these minor league soccer team players.
It's logic, and the odds are in his favor.
Odds in his favor.
That's just how it is, and we don't tell our kids that enough. And I'm a big culprit. I hate to say it, but vicariously seeing my son and my daughter experience a lot of success in basketball, I get to reaffirm what I thought I was capable of by seeing them do it, even though I didn't do it. But at the end of the day, they both know how to code.
Yeah.
Mimi said, going back to the voting, you can change those people out of Congress and House. Go about it the right way. I think the rest of your comment got lost because it say and there's nothing there. But I was thinking when you're talking about the voting and the lottery and stuff, and the roads still look the same. So on the positive, I guess, on the positive, this is how DC get us. First of all, voting. Everybody need to understand that everybody, all the people from the House and the Congress and all that, they come here into DC and they are affecting us here with the decisions that they make. It's affecting us. It's not affecting y'all. So, Amir, if you want to expound on that later,
Yeah, I don't think people know that.
But, I was talking to Davita the other day, and I said the simplest, the one little thing where I can just talk about is Trump saying that federal employees must return back into the office. What does that do for us right here in the traffic? Is ridiculous. Don't nobody else got to feel that the same way that we do. When people are teleworking, DC traffic it's cool. When school gets canceled and 2-hour delays, it's cool because I don't see Maryland drivers on the road, and I don't see, well, I see them, but less. Virginia and Maryland. He making the traffic go back and be horrible.
But that's not even the worst. That's not, because I don't think people really understand when you say their effect. So whoever you vote for in your state, they come to DC. Everybody understands that. But what they don't know is that DC budget is not actually made by the government of DC. It's an allocation that Congress, the president, gets to give to DC. So if they want to apply pain to the city and then use it as a stumping, a talking point, they go, DC's not tough on crime. What people don't know is because they didn't allocate those measures inside the budget, and therefore DC can only spend. Not saying that the mayor of DC is doing everything she's supposed to be doing from our standpoint, but what they don't understand is that DC doesn't create its own budget. It only enacts the budget that's given to them by Congress. So when you send your crazy individuals up here because you did or did not vote, it has a direct effect on the citizens of this city state. People don't really understand that. And I'm like, your voting does affect me.
Yeah.
My voting doesn't really affect anybody because DC's got their one person they don't really do anything, right? So we got the tags that say taxation without representation. Representation, that's DC. And people don't really know. I'm like, I don't affect you, but you do affect me with some of your silly ideas that might get carried up here.
Yeah,
and we're feeling it.
And you hit it on the head, Tawana, with the traffic. Case in point, 3 days after that executive order, my son had a high school basketball game. Now, mind you this, I've missed all kinds of birthdays, games, and whatnot, being on active duty for 25 years. So I try to be at their extracurricular stuff. So I call myself, okay, he plays at 6:30. So I'm going to leave the office at 4, and I'll be there on time. I ain't get to the game till the third quarter because of traffic. All it took was one wreck, and we're stuck on I-95. And it took me 2 hours to make it 19 miles. And I get there in the third quarter, and I have to hope somebody was recording, or I missed a prime opportunity. And then another thing I'll say is at the office, right? I see people, do that commute. And then after that hour, maybe 2 hour commute because traffic's so crazy. So when they get there, they got to use the restroom. That's 15 minutes. And then they're going to want some coffee. That's 30 minutes. They're going to see somebody they ain't saw in a long time. So by the time they actually getting some work done, they're an hour and a half, 2 hours in, right? And then they might get one or two things done. Then it's time for lunch. And then after that, right, then they might have a meeting or something. Then they got to fight that traffic and come back. It's been statistically proven that remote work is far more efficient. You get more done. for certain jobs that don't need to be on, certain systems that require you to be in person. It's just way more efficient, and there's not one solution for everybody, and you get more work out of people by allowing them to do it remotely. And we live in a era of globalization, the internet, connectivity. You don't need someone who's just doing something like payroll to drive into a building, and fight traffic for 2 hours. But now you do, because someone decided that they have to come and do that. And I think it's completely ridiculous.
That's how they could have saved money, guys. Right? You put more people on telework that can actually telework, and then you downsize operations at some of these buildings, right? And so there was a far better way. Like, no one's saying that how it's been done in the past was the right or wrong way, right? But if you really wanted to make government more efficient, telework was the way to do it. In fact, telework was part of the catalyst why they were saying people need to come back to work, because guess what? All of these other businesses around it were suffering from, because they couldn't get revenue because people were staying at home. They were far more efficient. They didn't want to come in.
Yep.
And so people were feeling that right there. It was telling you people, and guess what? The government service was not necessarily dropping off. Plumbers, some IT folks, some of that needs to be there to make sure that these buildings run. But we have paid so much money for these buildings right now. That is what's costing us. Like the maintain these buildings has harmed us. And so to bring people back, we wanted to cause a problem. Right. This is by being deliberate. People outside of this world don't necessarily know. And I saw something that Mimi had put down, right? She's saying like Americans need to unify. No, they don't. The only thing they need to unify on is doing their civic duty. Like I don't want to agree with most Americans. And I don't want most Americans to agree with me. I want competition of ideas, right? I want new ideas. What we should do is show up and go, the way that we compete is through the democratic process. Right. That's why that's in place. That's where Americans should unify on. Most Americans want change, but they don't want to do like the hard work of change. Like we sit out. Most people don't vote. Most people don't stay informed. America's a global community. Why do we send money overseas? We send money overseas so we can have continuous access to minerals and resources that we don't have home. That's part of it. And so cut that money off and see what happens, right? We don't get the cool phones. Like, if we want to be an agrarian society, by all means, everybody better learn how to ride a horse. But if you don't want to ride a horse in the rain and you want to ride around in cars, we don't, like the rubber, the tire, none of that stuff is here. And so that's what that money goes overseas for, is to give us access so we can continue living the awesome lives that everybody wants to live.
I would ask you to educate on USAID, but that's gonna take
let me say
many paths we can go. No, we're not gonna
I'm not gonna educate on it, but I did have I would say this, right? We had there's a task force in Africa called Amazon, African Mission in Somalia. I had a program tied to that, and it was for AIDS prevention. And I don't think we understand the curse that we have re-unleashed onto the African continent. Yeah. And I would say that, and I go, we help create some of these problems on that continent.
You would have to say something like that. Just we don't come back to it. Maybe if you and Gus, whatever. The other thing what I was going to say about DC and the voting and stuff, Gus, you actually said something that I've been like half serious with Ameer about. So we get trapped here in DC. Trapped's not the word, but you live in Virginia and Maryland, you really don't know of all the scholarship opportunities that your child has. And it's, only DC. DC only gets all these freaking scholarships. And so, therefore, like, we can't move out of DC. That is what I'm saying about the positives. That's the positives of us paying taxes or the DC lottery and all the stuff. They definitely are using that to our benefit. But I was just saying, like, somebody should go in on like buying another house so we can move out, and someone can stay living inside of the DC. Because I mean, as you know, you could just go 5 minutes away and you're in Maryland or Virginia, and we can all go live in that house over there. But some people just take turns living in the DC spot just to make sure it's populated, and that could be the address. And everybody kids get the DC scholarship.
I said it right.
I
told you my standpoint, right? And I'm gonna fall on this sword. I go that what you have expressed is a middle class mindset.
Yes.
And middle class is partly what's wrong with the country, because they become separated. The goal is always to keep separating, to distance, to create distance. And so you become detached with what's happening to people. And I know people don't necessarily like that, right? Because they're like, I'm middle class. Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying there's a consequence of it. So you go there, you're not going to want to come in DC.
Sure. But if you go 5 minutes away, yeah.
And so all you're going to do is say that you're for the people, but you're not no longer attached to the people. And so people move away and they keep their I'm from the hood mindset, but they have no more connection to it. And so why do people lose connection with people? Because there's this, right? And I understand some people like to be away and space. And I go, there's a beauty to that, but it also is a dark side to that. That's
you talking like way far. Literally, like, for us, I'm literally saying a house that's on the other side of the street where there is now a Maryland flag, and this side there is a DC flag, and there are some pretty nice houses over there. You talking about suburb life? You're describing.
But you're not going to come. But you're not going to come into the city. You're not going to come into the city. You're not going to want to.
DC, Maryland, and a house right here. Yeah, huh?
When people in Savannah move to Hardyville, they don't come to Savannah, and that's that's a skip away. Because you're going to want to invest in the neighborhood you're in. You're not, you know what I'm saying? Like, I live here. I'm gonna take this money that I have here and go put it over here. You're gonna want to improve it where you're at, rightfully so. Like, it's a thing, and so and therefore that affects how people vote, because people don't think about that's how they're thinking. So when they see their money being spent in other places, they want it spent where they are residing. That's part of the thought process. And so therefore our politics become local, but we affect nationally. We forget that because we want something done for us local. And so we don't care if we can mess up something in Utah if I can get something in Florida functioning. And so, like, we don't think about like the implications of our decisions. I'm not saying at a later point we wouldn't necessarily leave here, but you should know the transformation that's going to happen. I want Savannah to improve, but I also live here. Right? I understand what happens when I detach myself from the city. somebody like, I guess I don't want black people to be harmed in DC, but I live in Savannah, right? And I'm okay with people acting locally. I'm saying they got to think about what their decision means as it reverses itself back to them. When you make that local decision, what type of influence? It may help you out in the short run, right? That's how voting. That's like, we should really understand voting actions.
In the pockets, short run.
It'll show up. You're like, oh yeah, this is cool. But then what's the implications to that?
That when these kids be telling us that they need more money, we have to.
Well, these jokers better make it. I tell you that, they better make
it. Doggone, Gus, college is expensive. My goodness.
Oh, that's extremely expensive. That's why I told my nephew Noah, and we learned a lot with my daughter, because she only got that partial scholarship to play basketball, and then the rest was, FAFSA and us fronting stuff out of pocket. But that's like the Scholly app and some other ones out there. But I told my nephew, man, he's about to be a senior next year. This summer, his whole existence needs to be like searching Scholly for scholarship opportunities. And then obviously I'm going to look into the VA thing unless Elon goes and cut that out. With him being, an adopted or a foster kid by us, I don't know if he qualifies for that with me being a disabled veteran now. But man, it gets nuts. It gets kind of crazy with college, and I don't want to derail the conversation, but I saw Kendrick's halftime show, and he mentioned reparations, 40 acres and a mule. I just feel like a great form of reparations would be that college, because if you make it to that point, then that means that you're grabbing a hold of those bootstraps and you're trying to pull yourself up. So if you can prove your lineage and tie it to slavery, then I just feel like there should be some breaks there for college for African Americans with that type of a lineage, because I mean it's only right to take care of that stuff, because you're right, it'll hit you over the head. And I didn't know that DC had so many benefits for college students. I need to look into that. We might need to make a move ourselves.
DC, he's like, let me come in.
Yeah, the DC residents, like, it's mad scholarships and what's the thing, grants. But you didn't derail. You actually can take us back to the beginning, and perhaps we close out however y'all feeling. Because otherwise I'd be talking to myself. Kendrick Lamar. So yes, that was on the agenda a little bit. And Amir, you never came back and said what you wanted to.
I'm gonna come back to it.
Kamau.
I'm gonna come to it.
The message that Kendrick Lamar was spreading through his performance, and when Beyonce did it, she had a message as well. Do we get the messages? Should we watch the halftimes just to see what their message is, just to support the artist? And then lastly, just about how that's the nuances of it all as well. Because did he get a bag from performing at the halftime show? And did he use that time to deliver a great message? Him and whomever else. As opposed to, I'm remembering, I read, because I didn't watch it, that Nelly, during his performance, he had people, I think they said he played is it called Pomp and Circumstance? Whatever it's called, that he like played that, and then like his dancers were dressed in like fatigues or whatever. So like he tried to make his performance a tribute to the military. So did he use his time to deliver a message that he appreciates the military? But I think he should have been using a black message. I don't know.
I'm fine with him doing military. I mean, like I said before, what things that affect the veteran population and the active duty population out there? Did he do something for that? That's what I'm saying. If Nelly is like, yo, hey, I'm going there to go perform, That's his decision. But then he tries to get an audience with the SecDef or with with Trump or whatever, and talk about, hey, I know veteran affairs is going to be part of the focus to shrink the government, but we really should take care of these individuals. Maybe he did it. I don't know. But I don't care what you do at your performance, right? What are you doing for Nelly, right? Because he's got access to them. That's his opportunity.
Yeah, I'm with you, Amir, on your original statements. It was probably before I signed in. I was typing in the comments. I just really, think that Dave Chappelle was on to something when he pointed out the irony that we put so much responsibility on the shoulders of entertainers when it comes to being ambassadors for an entire Black community when they're not qualified to do that. They're very talented, but just because you can keep people's attention and 8 bars in a hook don't mean that you can go deep enough to address some of the problems that affect us as Black people in America. And just like you said, well, there's been a serious incident. Let's have a break here. Let's see what Ja Rule
has to say.
Like, yo, man, nobody cares what Ja Rule has to say about 9/11.
Yeah, bro, that was wild, right? You're like, what did Ja Rule know? Is he like a structural engineer or something? And he understand out of the building. Say, if he was, I mean, like, I wouldn't be mad. Like, hey, Ja Rule's also an engineer, or like he's an airline pilot on the side.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, he got some relevant stuff.
And I don't want to knock Ja Rule because he's a good dude. I met him one time when I was in Iraq. He came to entertain the troops, and I got to shake his hand. But you're not qualified to represent us, and I really do hate the fact that they do that. But as far as the performance goes with Kendrick Lamar, I guess I'm numb, because I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to Black history, and I see how far we came. And I think that we had a huge opportunity, and I'm not one to go for identity politics, right? But I thought that we had a huge opportunity to elect Kamala Harris for the simple fact that she's qualified, point blank, period. We can talk DEI, but if we were to take the stance of Silicon Valley, they do a lot of blind job interviews where they will disguise the voice using technology. They won't reveal pictures or face, and then you'll only answer questions, and then at the end the selection panel will choose the most qualified person to take that job in Silicon Valley. And it could end up being someone from India, someone who's white, someone who's Black, but indeed that person will be qualified. If you were to take and do the same thing for the election between Kamala and Trump, I guarantee you it would have been a closer race. And I just don't understand what happened at the polls. How after going through what we went through with the COVID-19 pandemic and the mishandling of that, and then the Capitol getting raided and some of the nonsense that was just going on, I have no idea how what happened, but I feel like the halftime shows and the protests and the symbolism and all of that stuff is a distraction from us addressing why so many Black men felt the need to go to the polls or not go to the polls, looking at the stats and cast a vote in the way that they did, and why we as Black men won't stand 10 toes down for a highly qualified Black woman. And what is the problem with that when most of us were raised by a Black woman? And I got blood brothers that I'm biologically related to that support Trump, and they're being taken care of by a Black woman right now because they ain't getting up off their whats and doing something about their lives, but they wouldn't support that one. So I got a huge issue with that, and I just wonder why we talk so much about diversity, equity, inclusion when someone that was far more qualified didn't get the opportunity. And then when you take a look at America in its total context, looking at all 56 or 55, I don't have the exact number, people who have represented this country, we can look at problems that we're facing today in the context of who has been in a position to affect those problems, right? And there's never been a Black woman. And as a programmer, as a person in STEM, I try not to get caught up in infinite loops. And I know you know what that is, Amir. You know, you want to have good logic, right?
I
And
don't know what infinite loop is.
infinite loop is when you tried something.
I'm saying I know what it
it's broken,
is.
and it goes
Give
over
me
and
credit
over and
too.
over and over again, and then your system starts smoking
Yeah.
because you have written some poor logic into your code. That's what that is.
It won't stop.
It won't stop. It won't stop. Right? And we have done the same thing over and over and over and over again with the way that we vote, except for Barack. And we expect different results, and that's clinical insanity. And we had an opportunity to break that, and I'll leave it at that.
Gus, so you said something, right? And you know, talking with some other people, everything that you said, right, about the highly qualified Black woman. There are a lot of people, a unnerving amount of people that is what's wrong with us, because we have such, these Black women are so talented. They're uppity, they're lippity, right? They're gonna tell you, right, all these weird things. You're like, well, you talking about that she's smarter than everybody, so therefore she wants to kind of be in charge because she's earned the position. You're saying that it's a bad thing for her? There are a lot of people who don't like that. They tapped into that with some immigrant populations because they're coming from places where the woman is not in charge. It's still a macho culture. They tapped into that same culture within the Black community, right? There are a lot of people that like, what his name, Samuel, what's his name? Kevin Samuels. There are a lot of people like, yeah, it is insane to me, right? Like you said, you're being raised by a Black woman. Most of us have been raised by a Black woman, but it's time for us to be honest. A lot of those individuals are resentful.
Yeah, that's
because of that.
Let me make a correction because I've been sitting here. Her name is Kamala. Kamala.
Yep.
Vice President Harris.
You know I'm country, so I know I'm probably saying it wrong.
yeah. We can barely say Walmart straight up. So, hey, look, I would tell her that. I'll say, ma'am, I pronounce salmon with an L. So please do not. This is nothing against you. This is all me. I can't even get that word down right.
I know. I still go to the McDonald's and ask for a sausage, egg, and cheese
They're like, what do you want? You like that?
Yep. But she's qualified.
She's qualified.
And
qualified.
Look, that job is not rocket science. If anybody's making it into rocket science, it's not. I mean, seriously, she could do it. And it came down to a popularity contest, and it came down to hatred.
Yeah.
You know, and some of that self-hatred, you know, and some of that is the division within our own community. And I just have a hard time, like, for instance, my mom, you know, single mother, you know, with some help. You know, my dad came around. It wasn't like I didn't know him, you know, but she pretty much by herself raised 7 kids, right? And taught me, you know, to have pride in myself, and was able to stretch a welfare check and some food stamps, you know, to make sure that we never went hungry and we didn't have to go rob, steal, and kill to get something. So, I mean, that within itself, I think is evidence that, you know, there's some qualifications and there's some qualities within that group. And then if you look at history, you know, I truly think, you know, some comedians put it differently, but I truly think that Black women were instrumental in getting us out of slavery, you know. And I will tell you, man, we made a mistake, and I don't mince my words. We made a mistake. Do I support the guy that's in office? Of course. You know, I'm American. We need to win. We need to support him. But you know, I didn't vote that way, and I feel like we made a terrible mistake, and we're seeing some of the ramifications of it right now. And we need to address that more so than what's happening at a halftime show within our community. We need to stop looking at entertainment and colloquialism and all the other things that go along with it, and start really addressing some of the reasons why we have never historically been able to unify in such a way that we're using those trillions of dollars that you spoke about, Amir, and using our votes to actually get what we need out of this country in order to make things equitable for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where the conversation needs to go. She was qualified. And like you said, it's mind blowing that when people try to justify all of these different things, they try to find so many things. She's not black, and I'm like, oh, and people fell for that. Like, well, she's not, like she's not black. She's not like American black, right? And you're like, oh, that's black. Did we just elect Barack Obama? Like, what are you talking about? What, like we people are around here singing Deo or Harry Belafonte, right? Harry Belafonte
Bro, we do it to ourselves, man. And
like, he's not from the United States. Like, all of these individuals that we love will automatically be eliminated because we applied some new filter called black. Like, like it is the weirdest thing that we did to her to try to justify that she wasn't qualified. She wasn't black. You're like, no, she joined a black sorority before most people had some of the people that argued against her, like, you wasn't even born or graduated. You had no idea. She was black way back in the 80s, right?
It's insanity, man.
It's insanity.
It's straight insanity. And you know it, Amir, we used to walk a lot. If I walked down that alley last week and I got beat down and robbed, I'm not going down there again. Bro. Yeah. No, we went down the same alley. That's what we did. And if you look at the context of America, we went down that same alley plenty of times, except with Barack, and we keep doing it. And I have no idea what people are thinking about. We need to take our eye away from the soda straw and look at the whole picture, the entire context of this country and where we came from and how we got to where we're at. And we need to start reevaluating ourselves. And then, we talk diversity, equity, inclusion. Look at the sec def. I mean, General Austin, the man would have never even been considered unless he was who he was, right?
Yeah.
And this dude, his only requirement, he was in the Army. Like, come on, bro. Seriously?
Yeah, a major versus a general, right? Seriously. Who has no. This major? I'm sitting there like this major. Oh man, the guard be kicking behind. I give it to the guard, but. Man, are you serious? You gonna do this?
You're talking about a company size or a battalion size budget versus national budget.
Yes.
You're not ready for what you're about to be up against. You're not ready for looking at agencies and other things that you need to be able to direct and advise. And he's never been in that, but he's gonna get to learn on the job. He's gonna get some OJT, right? But we don't get them kind of opportunities. And here you have, I want to say it again wrong. Correct me if I do, Kamala, who's had all of this experience, and just got done with demonstrating her ability to follow, because I'm not a fan of Biden. I thought he was horrible, but she demonstrated her ability to follow and support, and I feel like that was indication that she deserved the opportunity to actually lead.
Yeah.
And we didn't do it. We missed the mark.
I just want to point out something small, but it's important to my old intros. That Gus said alley, he did not say lane. Sure, y'all both from Savannah.
I told you there's a distinction between it. Like you use it universally. I know what Gus is talking about when he went down the alley.
I know what a lane is too. Now.
So the alley, what's the alley you talking about? Because the alley is the alley, and y'all call it the lane.
It's when you get jumped. It's when you get jumped.
That's the alley.
Yeah, that's the alley. A lane is like cars might go down the lane.
That's still an alley. You can get jumped
alley,
down that too.
cars don't necessarily go down all
The
the
lane,
alleys.
we talking about Wahlberg Street, Savannah and Duffy.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point that out since Gus still haven't came on.
Hey, you ever heard of an alley?
y'all.
Hey, you ever heard of an alley cat?
Yes.
And there's like trash cans and stuff, right? And the alley cat is on the trash can. Cars are not driving down there.
Yeah, they are.
And maybe in Alton, because I ain't got an expansive infrastructure.
In Kansas, yes. This is in the alley. That's where trash cans is in the alley. And sometimes it's dark. Sometimes the light works. People get jumped in the alley. Prostitutes be in the alley. Druggies be in the alley.
But
and
not
you
the
better
lane.
hope somebody don't drive by in the car and see what you're doing
Not
in
the
the
lane.
alley.
But not the lane.
Y'all calling it a lane. It's the alley.
They're not necessarily the same.
Anywho, I just needed to point that out. I got two people right here from Savannah who called the same thing, two different things. Okay.
We diverse.
Yeah, I was talking to okay. Talking about the people didn't vote for Kamala even though she was fully qualified, but which still is voting. Yeah, I was talking about followership and leadership. But I don't know. I think you should still go and say what you're supposed to say, because what was it about? Was it about DEI? But when you said that, it kind of hurts your heart.
Yeah,
that he won't be given an opportunity if he chooses to join them. Yeah, that was DEI. It was DEI related.
Yeah, because he's showing like he is building, like you show him a plane. Like I'm speaking about my youngest son, and so he's really into military planes. And so he goes in there, he takes a Lego and no instruction, and he made a P-51 Mustang, which that's my favorite plane. He just made it, and it looks like I was like, dude, this is amazing. And he's just building these planes, right? He is all about it. He's trying to understand the aerodynamics. He understands, because he's into birds as well. So he understands lift of wings, why a wing needs to be tilted this way, tilted that way, right? You're looking at a future engineer, right? There are a lot of kids who are not doing what he's doing, who don't want to do what he's doing, but you're going to try to make it to where they get this overwhelming opportunity. You know what you're doing, and you cover that up, right? All we're asking is that you lift everybody up so you can see your entire talent pool. Don't mean that my son's going to be an engineer, but why would you allow a talent to be submerged under mediocrity of other people, right? You should do DEI in the white community. Don't just give it to everybody. Yeah. Lift up your most talented so you can pick from the best group. Like we want that. You should go to an Irish engineering session. You should go, maybe there's a kid in Tennessee and way in the boondocks who is going to be the next engineer, but you don't even go there and look. And so all we're going to do is flood it with a bunch of untalented people, and it's going to make it harder to actually find the talent. And the result of that is America is going to run into a backlog of its talent because it's struggling to find it. And the fastest way to deal with it is to bring in immigrants to do those type of jobs as well. We do have great engineers in America, but it's hard for us to get to them. So we have to bring in engineers from other places. Like we're doing that to ourselves. And I'm like, it's gonna hurt my heart.
Yeah, I hope they get it right, man, because they're saying that they're doing it under the premise that everything is gonna be merit-based now. History tells me that it's never been that way. And I hope they get it right. And I even hope that they bring back, diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, for the simple fact that, like you said, it forces us to actually broaden our horizon and look at the holistic talent pool. And I like to use the analogy, three blind men and an elephant. It was taught to me a long time ago, and it stuck with me. So you got three blind men, and each one hold out their hand to touch the elephant, and then they describe what they feel. One says, "Oh, it feels, big and round like a tree trunk." He's feeling the leg. And one says, "No, no, no, it feels like a rope." He's feeling the tail. And the other one says, "No, it's sharp like a spear," and he's feeling the tusk. When you put that all together, you get the holistic picture of the elephant. And to me, diversity, equity, and inclusion is just like three blind men and an elephant. You're getting diversity of thought, because our lives, which led us to the point that we are, have enabled us to bring a holistic perspective that can help us to solve problems faster. And winning means being able to solve problems and put a plan into action that's going to give you an advantage. And when you have diversity of thought, meaning age, sex, ethnicity, disabilities, you can go on and on and on. You're going to get, those blind men to encircle that elephant. And if we don't understand the fact that cronyism is a thing, and that historically we have had people that have been in a room full of 45-year-old white men, and they had no problem with looking around that room and saying, "Hey, there's no women in here. Hey, we don't have any young people in here. Hey, there's no black people in here." And they have the audacity to think that they can solve all the problems. I think it's completely ignorant. You need that diversity. You need it in order to encircle problems. And if we don't get it right, we're going to find ourselves at a disadvantage. And it has nothing to do with any affirmative action or taking something from one person or another. It has to do with winning. And we want to win, as a military. We want to win as a country. We want to win as people. And when we get that in our heads, we'll be okay. And I personally think that we need regulation to ensure that we continue to think that way, because historically people have not done the right thing unless they've been made to.
Yeah, you said something right, and it was something that I was working on, an article, um, and like, why is DEI important? And I kind of hinted on it. I made some posts about the importance of DEI, and it is because of the way that we have. I'm speaking about DOD, right? The way that DOD has harnessed DEI, it makes it to where it can be thrown away, right? Because it's like, okay, I want more black people, but what they're not doing is understanding the experience, right? And so what I relate it to is that we're currently in a war for the best AI, right? And part of AI is the data set that it's trained on. The better the data set, the greater it understands, the better it performs. And so when we look at like Harriet Tubman, and everybody get happy because she was the conductor of the Underground Railroad. She saved all these people, right? And that's all people hear of DEI. So every February, that's what we're going to talk about. And we're probably going to have fried chicken and collard greens at some point in time during the month. But instead of doing, okay, at a military academy, we're going to explore, understand, and break down the leadership capability of Harriet Tubman, the operational planning of Harriet Tubman, and also the intelligence operations that she employed and how she utilized a network in order to affect this particular thing. Because she's also General Tubman. She's not just Harriet Tubman, right? And then we had greater access to more experiences. Our military becomes that much more potent because we can understand more. We can do more. It broadens our questioning, which broadens our scope and how we dig into a problem. But we don't do that. We use DEI as a throwaway. Don't just get a black person from the hood. You should understand how did they actually survive within an urban environment. Like what was going on? What was the effect of these particular things? You should understand that, right? Because that can help you understand more about your own population. I mean, there's a host of things that we can explore out of it. but we don't use DEI the way it should be used. We use it as a throwaway category just to make the force look different externally. But what it showed is that internally and below the surface, we continue to behave the exact same way because we was able to go, DEI, okay, cancel, get rid of it.
Yep.
Right. If it was actually part of what we were,
Yep.
you couldn't do that. The Tuskegee Airmen was a portion, a module that can be pulled right out.
Yep.
But if it was something that is what we are, right? It's understanding Roman history and Roman armies and how they behave. Every army is taught you're only as good as your logistical trail. So what did that affect? It affected Hannibal. Hannibal stretched his logistical train out. It allowed the Romans to be able to seize upon that because he had such a long logistical trail to deal with. Getting elephants up over the Alps was amazing, but he had no logistics to support those elephants once they got over the Alps. So Hannibal was at a disadvantage. So you should understand, employing certain platforms in certain areas, you may not have the capability to keep it alive. And I'm like, I got taught that. So why am I learning about the Romans? Why don't you use that same idea and learn about how, if we're doing land nav, how did enslaved Africans running from a plantation that was able to navigate and avoid being murdered by crocodiles, caught by dogs? Like every seer school should be teaching how someone got from Florida to to Ohio. Like, yo, what did you do? Like, right? That's the stuff we should be understanding. That's why DEI is important, but it's a throwaway. We don't even explore and understand it. Therefore, we're not part of history. We're grafted on, and every graft can just be pulled right off the tree. It's not part of the tree, and we are. I'm not saying we, because I wanted to make it part of what we are, right? Yep. But there's individuals who don't understand, and so therefore their surface interactions with us going, hey, we got fried chicken and collard greens, right? Everybody tells me about Black History Month. When they tell me, a white person be like, man, the army, they did some good fried chicken. Bro, that's what you understand us to be?
It's crazy. Yep. It's way it's unhealthy power struggle and laziness. Whereas we should be putting our powers into becoming stronger rather than, trying to get the one up on each other. Because I'll be the first to tell you, it's a time and a place for everything. There have been times when I know that I needed a white dude to do a certain job, a Black woman to do a certain job, a Hispanic guy, girl, a white girl. I know people's capabilities because I listen to them on an individual basis on the teams that I've had the opportunity to work on. And, we just have to learn to find value in each other. We have to do that because, there's room for all of us to shine, and collectively, we can all win. And I just really hate the place that we're in right now, whereas people have made something that's completely positive and strengthening to us into something that's negative.
Woke, right? Every time they hear a word that they don't necessarily understand, right? And I'm saying I am talking about a specific side. They don't necessarily understand it, and so they demonize it, right? This is a long history of it. I don't know what voodoo is, so therefore voodoo is bad. And now you got people hopping on that, and I'm like, you don't even know what voodoo is, right? So they go, I celebrate my African culture, right? But voodoo's bad. And I go, you don't even know the link between those. You don't understand Benin. You don't understand Ghana. You don't understand the Yoruba culture. Like, the Ashanti Kingdom. Like, if you knew those things, then you would laugh at when people try to demonize an aspect of another culture. But you're so, like you said, education is just lacking.
Yeah, to call woke a bad thing to me is the equivalent of calling Albert Einstein bad, or even let's go more current, Elon Musk. It's like calling him bad, because you're not going to invent anything or come up with any new idea unless you challenge the current. And that's what woke is to look at things for what they are and ask yourself, well, why does that have to be that way? Is there a better way of doing it? That, to me, that's what woke is. And that's where ingenuity and that's where inventions and creativity come from being woke.
Then, so what was the period? I think it was called the Enlightenment period, right? Yeah. And so it's like it's like that's what woke is talking about. Is being it's like we're going to a point into where we were killing people for saying the Earth was round. Yeah, and it's like like the person who said the Earth was round, that person was woke.
Yeah, he was woke. He was woke. Me and you, we would have never made it out of Savannah if we wasn't woke. If I was asleep, I would have been like, okay, I live in the ghetto. I got to be a dope boy and I got to get 10 baby mamas. But I was like, wait a minute now. Is there a better way of doing this?
When I walks home, right? And when I walks home, we could have been like, bro, let's go rob somebody before
for real,
house, right?
You hungry? I'm hungry too. I'm hungry too. Got their money. Let's go get ours. Let's go
get ours. Exactly. And so we didn't do it, right? And so because we was exposed to other things, right? That's the Enlightenment period. The Enlightenment period said, hey, pooping inside the place where you drink, it's probably not effective, and that might be spreading disease. So let's put a sanitation system in place, right? Instead of going, I don't know why we're getting sick. It's because you're pooping in the same place where you drink. Those ideas had to be brought to you. Other medical advancements had to be brought to you. Understanding that the sun is in the center of our system, right? Help with satellite navigation later on, right? It's like this. And so when we go, it's woke, I'm like, we're attacking the very thing of the Enlightenment period. These individuals said things that the masses did not necessarily agree with. And we should have learned from that, saying stop destroying people because they're doing something that you just might not be on right now.
Absolutely, man. I'm going to say one more thing. I'm going to quote, I forgot the dude's name. It'll come to me later and then I'll just type it to you. It's a comedian. He was like, Alexander Graham Bell had to be straight crazy because he came up with the telephone, but he was woke. He's like, you know what? I wish I could talk to somebody who ain't even here. Then you got the telephone. So, I mean, come on, man. You got to be woke. You got to be woke to think about things that other people ain't thinking about and to challenge the status quo. And that's where improvement. And we being in the military, we talk about improving our foxhole. When you initially dig in, it is what it is. But as the weeks and days go, you make it better, you make it more efficient. And to me, that's what being woke is to actually challenge the status quo and to make things better. But man, I appreciate you guys doing this tonight, and I'm glad I got the pop up. I'm gonna have to jump off because I'm getting hungry, and I also got to get up in the morning and do some basketball, man.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. And I was just about to try to wrap it up too. So
all right, you guys have a good one.
Enjoy your evening.
All right,
brother.
All right. So, woke. From being woke, I need to be able to wake up tomorrow.
Yeah, we got to get. Hey, Capoeira, DC, man, we're doing it down here. So,
ain't that at like 1:00 though?
No, 10:30. What are you talking about? I'm gonna be gone.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. So class, right? Everybody, DC, Capoeira Angola, over there on MLK in Southeast DC. We're gonna be doing a Capoeira holder. Hey, hit me up if you want to go. But class, but they're gonna do a class from like 10:30ish to about noon. Maybe break for some fruit, some stuff, and then the holder start there, and then it's supposed to go to like 4:00. But people come and go. How they go, come in, because there's always a family reunion. People haven't seen each other in a while, say what's up, and so woke. Yeah, when people attack the whole thing about woke, it was just weird because it's like it's talking about being enlightened. And I guess we shouldn't be surprised again because this was exactly the reaction to the Enlightenment. Everyone was not enlightened, and so a lot of people had to die. A lot of people had to be, hung, killed for an idea to persist and go. This is real. We should do this so we stop getting sick, so we can live a lot longer, so we can understand the universe better. But none of those ideas was accepted in the beginning. They had to take people that was aware, whatever you want to call it. But these individuals had to come along, and kind of fight. And there's people who poo poo that, and are trying to push us back into a situation where we're not educated, and it will work for a generation. But if other societies around the world are educating, we will lose. Yes, we have a mighty army. The Romans did not lose a lot of fights, but as they declined and they declined, their empire shrunk, and they just wasn't getting the talent anymore. China understood that. They ran into the same problem. You start burning books, you start banning knowledge, your empire shrinks. That's just the truth, and nobody is above that. And to think so it's to be a bit arrogant.
Yep. So that will be the closing statement. You all who will come back and catch this later, enjoy your evenings. Thanks for watching. And make sure to take care of each other and yourselves. We are out. Out here.